Hello, everyone, and welcome to a match reaction show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie, and I'm your host for this evening. Not the result we wanted, of course. It's never nice to lose a fixture, but unfortunately, that is what occurred today as Liverpool lost to Crystal Palace in the Community Shield. So, what we'll do is during the show, we'll do a quick match review, plus, we'll do our player ratings. So, feel free to get involved and reveal your scores of each players as we go along. It's also a calling show, so if you'd like to call in and have your say, a link has been pinned in the live chat, so feel free to hit that link and I will get you on the show after the player rating. So, in terms of the match review, let's quickly speak about the first half. So, the match started in very bright fashion for Liverpool. We literally opened up a scoreline in the opening few minutes. Ekitike producing a great 1-2 with Florian Wirtz on the left side of the pitch. Ekitike cuts in, takes a shot, hits the bottom corner. Lovely finish there from the French striker. His first official goal for Liverpool in a competitive game. So great play between the two signings in Ekitike and Florian Wirtz. And then unfortunately, a mistake, or should I say, a foul led to a penalty being awarded to Palace. Van Dijk, for me, should have done a bit better in that situation. Didn't need to dive in as Salah was quite square on, and it would have been a difficult moment for him to try and score on goal. But unfortunately, he too much stepped on his foot. That led to the player falling down, and a penalty was awarded. Mateta stepped up and finished clinically into the bottom corner. And then Liverpool got the lead once again through our new right back in Jeremy Frimpong. Now he produced a cross shot on, funny enough, 20 minutes and 20 seconds of the game, which is, yeah, of course, aligns with Diogo Jota. Of course, both sets of fans paying their tribute to the striker. Um, but in terms of the goal, whether he meant it or not, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But it was a nice finish, bit of a freakish goal, but hey, a nice sort of debut goal from a competitive point of view for Jeremy Frimpong. So things were, in good shape for Liverpool going into the second half, and I just feel like we took our foot off the gas a little bit, and Palace were phenomenal in the second half. They really were. They were very aggressive in all aspects of the game. Uh, Ismail Assar had a great chance to score from Mark Gay's long ball, but unfortunately for him, he just headed it wide. But it didn't take long for them to get the equaliser as Ismail Assar got the crucial finish. Gakpo got pushed off the ball very easily by Will Hughes, which is a little bit disappointing when you watch the build up of that goal. Van Dijk gets caught out of position. He moves forward, thinking he's, presenting an offside trap. He hasn't. He's just left acres of space behind him, which Ismail Assar exposes or exploits. So he's through on goal and finishes clinically posting in. So for me, disappointing goal to concede. And quite frankly, this was the time of the game where Palace weren't really troubling our sort of goal. They were producing some good bits of play, but didn't really trouble Allison. They only had a couple of chances, through on goal, and they end up getting their finishes in the end. So yeah, a little bit disappointed in terms of conceding those two goals, and from Ismail Assar. This guy only turns up against Liverpool. Honestly, uh, he performs like he's prime on it. If you watch him throughout the season, he's very average, but against Liverpool, something lights up, and then he just turns up on the pitch. So yeah, a little bit frustrating, when you see him up against us. But that's just how it goes sometimes. And it's Manasa almost made it 3-2, but Kirkes produces a crucial block. There was a shout for handball around the time. McAllister tried to head the ball, but the ball pretty much landed on his hand as he was making that leap. So the right call not to get um, a penalty in that moment there. Salah, he was pretty much very, very quiet throughout the game. He had a chance on goal with Kirkes' cross, but his effort goes straight at the keeper. The substitute, Debney, has a last-minute effort for Palace to score the winner, but unfortunately for him, drags it wide. So that's the opening 90 minutes. And then thankfully, there was no extra time because back in the day, extra time was a thing. in his fixture, but I'm quite pleased it wasn't. So he went straight into penalties, and it wasn't a great afternoon when it comes to penalties for Liverpool. Salah misses his first penalty, ballooned it over the bar. Poor effort. I'm not sure what's going on with Salah. Last week, tried to do a Panenka, got that horribly wrong. And this effort as well was just as bad. So I don't want to sound reactionary, but this conversation of having a new, penalty taker will need to be addressed at some point. If we get Isak through the door, maybe he becomes the man to take on that role. But let that happen, and then we'll have further discussions in regards to the next penalty taker. But then Mateta steps up. He clinically finishes in the bottom corner, just like he did in the first half. Looking back at it, I think maybe Ali could have done a little bit better in that moment, as the ball wasn't right in the corner, but it was, hit with decent power. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. McAllister surprisingly misses the penalty, but let's give credit. Good save from Henderson, who's, you know, renowned to be a great penalty stopper, and today was definitely evident of that. And then Allison just about saves Eze's shot to deny the Palace number 10. Gakpo steps up, he scores with a clean finish. Ismail Assar, aka Prime Mane, as I like to call him against Liverpool, scores and hits his shot right into the corner. Harvey Elliott came on as a late sub, unfortunately, produced a poor effort towards goal and pretty much made it very easy for Henderson to make that block. No real power in that shot whatsoever. Sosa, one of their new signings, rattles the crossbar as he hit too much power with his effort. So Bosley then finished clinically to get one back for Liverpool, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough as the substitute Devney scores a fantastic left-footed strike into the top bin to score the winning goal. So Crystal Palace are this year's winners of the Community Shield, and I'm not going to be petty. I will congratulate the winners. So first, well done to Crystal Palace. I think in the end, if you're looking at the second half and you're looking at the penalties, you have to give credit. I think it was probably deserved in the end. Liverpool started the game really positively, and for me, they pretty much controlled the first half and showed a good account of themselves. But in the second half, it was all Palace. They were constantly pressing from the front, pressuring the Liverpool midfield, and were relentless in their play. And look, when it comes down to penalties, it's always potluck. So in the end, they did well to handle their nerves and deliver under pressure. And let's be honest, they probably deserve the win. From a Liverpool point of view, the history of teams competing for the Community Shield. The team that wins it never really end up winning the Premier League. So for me, I'll use that omen for the coming season because I'd like to win the Premier League. So, a bit shameless, but I have to present a silver lining from somewhere. But speaking of shameless, the way rival fans have reacted to Liverpool losing today, they've all come together collectively, laughing at Liverpool for losing, but also congratulating Palace on such a special win. And it's a little bit over the top. But look, it happens when you're on top. You get that hate, you get people that will do everything in their power to, laugh at you, in that kind of moment. But we'll get the last laugh. I'm very, very much sure of that. So, it is what it is. For me, even if we won the game today, I've said it before. It is sort of a glorified preseason friendly in my eyes. It just puts you in a good step going into next season, or shall I say, the opening fixture next week. But it doesn't really impact the season or anything to that nature. For me, I've been impressed in terms of how Liverpool performed in preseason. That's what I look into going into a new season. So look, we lost today. It is what it is. Congrats to Crystal Palace. Another silverware added to their cabinet. Got more silverware than certain teams right now. So yeah, well done to them. And yeah, let's see what happens. You know, next week when we actually start playing real competitive games in the opening fixtures of the Premier League. Um, just gonna go through some of the comments before we move on. If there's any callers, I will get the callers on very, very shortly. First comment from AI says, Hi Ozzy, Assalamu alaikum. How are you? And also, how's your family? Best ingredients, smash the like and subscribe on. Pick up yourself, AI. Walaikum assalam. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, we're all good, thank you. Of course, not nice to lose a game of football, but we move on. But I appreciate your comment. Thank you for tuning in. LSC20 said it's worrying that we still only play well in one half of a game we have carried over from last season. The funny thing with us is that we started games very slowly last season, and then we end up building up in the second half. Whereas now it's kind of gone the other way. So it is a slight concern, but I would put it down to are still finding our match fitness, and I think that will come as the games go on. So yeah, not nothing to worry about. I would say it's about just being patient and waiting for the season to unfold, and then as the games go on, that's when you start seeing the players playing, to the highest level. And then in a few weeks' time, I'm expecting the team to be in full gear or full force and go all out in the coming months of the season. So yeah, still early doors, still getting used to playing at a very competitive level. I think once we get that over the line, we'll be, competitive all the way around. So yeah, looking forward to the season coming up. So let's do the play ratings, and if there's any callers, we'll get some callers in today as well. Uh, let's start with Allison. So I mean, generally, he had a good game. I don't remember him making any errors or anything to that nature. I remember in the first half, he made a great block with Mateta being one-on-one. In terms of the first half penalty, yeah, I think it was a good executed penalty from the French striker. Alisson maybe could have done better for the penalty in the shootout with Mateta's finish, but I feel like I'm clutching when it comes to that sort of thing. So overall, I would say a solid performance from Alisson. Good to see him back in action. Hope everything's well with him and his family as well. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. Now, moving on to Jeremy Frimpong. I was very impressed with his performance today. Um, his goal, yeah, make it, of what you will, whether it was a cross or it was a shot. For me, it's a cross shot finish. That's what I like to classify as. So for me, yeah, nice finish from him. Good touch in terms of, him getting his first goal in a competitive game. But I was impressed with his all-round game. I feel like he's formed a great relationship with Mohamed Salah on that right hand side. So they understand each other's movement and they know, when to go ahead or one player drops deep or one drops a little bit further behind and then allows the other person to go a bit more forward. So they're building a great partnership on that right hand side. And what impressed me the most, and something that gets, you know, spoken about to suggest that he doesn't have in his locker is his defending. Now today for me, he's defended really well in certain situations. There were times where he was quite further ahead, but his recovery speed was absolutely insane. So for me, that's the difference between Frimpong and number 66, where number 66 never really tracked back. He didn't, you know, go all out or show all his energy to track back and work hard for the team. What he did was, which separates him from everyone else is, the passing range where, he's producing holding passes here and there. But from a defending point of view, he never really tracked back. That's the area that he really struggled in, especially one-on-one duels. But I feel like Frimpong, even if he's further up, which is, asked to do tactically, his recovery speed is phenomenal. And he's tracked back in quick succession and he's aggressive in the tackle. He made a few blocks today as well. So I was thoroughly impressed with his performance today. And I hope that, this sort of notion that he can't defend will go out the window soon because he can defend. I'm not saying he's the best right back defending player in the whole world or anything to that nature, but he can defend. He knows when to attack going forward, but he also knows when to track back. And more importantly, if you're out of position, but you return and you've kept the shape of your back line. That's all you want because then you've added pressure onto that winger, and that winger has to either pass it back or he'll have to do something amazing to go past ping pong again. You're not going to get a player that does that all the time. So for me, I think he's got the right sort of mentality. I think he's got the right understanding of how to play that right back role. So I'm very excited in terms of how he performs going into the new season. So in terms of his performance today, I'm going to give him a 7.5 out of 10. Kanate. I was very impressed with Kanate. And one thing that might be the reason why he performed so well is because he didn't have to cover two positions. He didn't have to be a right back today, or he had to play a different role at times. He pretty much concentrated on being a defender, and I feel like he was very dominant. He had a very tricky opponent in Mateta, who's strong and physical, but he kept him quiet for large parts of the game, and he looked pretty much solid throughout. So I don't remember him making too many errors. Seemed calm and composed on the ball. So for me, a very, very solid performance from Konate. So in terms of his rating, I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. I just got a comment here from Oz and Kabak says, big up Ozzy, disappointing day, but we move 100% Oz and Kabak. We do move. Frustrating, of course. It's never nice to lose, but yeah, it's just one of those things that happens. It doesn't impact our season. And I feel like there's a lot of fans that are crashing out today. I don't know why that is. Honestly, if we had won, I'd still be a bit cheerful. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to be over the top. You're not going to see me popping champagne bottles. Not that I drink anyway, but you're not going to see me doing extravagant celebrations. It's just a glorified preseason game. You get assured at the end. Yes, you get a bit of silverware, but it's not the end all for me. So, yeah, I'm quite surprised with the reaction from some of our fans online regarding the result. I don't think it's that deep, honestly. And some players have been pretty much made into scapegoats today, which I'll speak about shortly. But yeah, I feel like some opinions have been a bit unjustified, but that's just my thoughts in regards to the treatment that some players are getting from this fixture. But hey, we'll move on to the next topic, and that is Van Dijk. So yeah, not his best afternoon. I'm not going to beat around the bush or defend him to in an unbiased manner. He had a poor afternoon. The first goal, I feel like he could have done better. He didn't need to rush into that tackle on Ismail Assar, and unfortunately gave a penalty away. The second one was slightly bizarre because he just read that situation all wrong. The defense, in terms of left back, centre back, and right back, they were aligned quite well. The shape was good, but he went forward and then assumed that everyone's going to follow suit. But in that transitional play, the players wouldn't have just moved so quickly together. It would have been vitally impossible because it was literally one pass that split the whole defense open. So for me, I don't know. I think lack of focus was the cause of that. So he went forward and pretty much left a huge gap behind it, and that's what Ismail Assar exploited. And he's through on goal, and he's got the whole goal to aim at pretty much, and hits a shot posting in. So poor defending from Virgil van Dijk, and there's been some reactions that he's not the guy anymore. He's past it. Complete overreaction. I think as fans we need to think level-headedly sometimes. It's a bit over the top, in my opinion. But if that's what you think, that you are entitled to say what you feel. But for me, that's not justified. So in terms of his performance, I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. I don't think he was fantastic. I don't think he was that terrible to get a lower mark, but I don't think he was good either. So for me, an average rating of 5 is what he gets. Kirkes, I was quite impressed with Kirkes' performance. I thought he was very energetic, defended really well, supported the attacking players on the left-hand side when required, made a very crucial block towards the end of the game from Ismail Assar's shot that could have definitely gone in and secured the victory before the penalties were even taking place. So for me, very, very solid performance. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does going forward. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. Now on to the double pivot. Now a lot of fans have voiced their annoyance about having these two as a combination. It didn't work today. I'm not saying it will never work, in the future, but it just wasn't the right dynamics. Now Curtis Jones, you know, for me personally, when I was doing the live watch along, I did say quite a couple of times that I thought he went. I didn't notice him much. I feel like he wasn't impactful today and wasn't heavily involved. Like the other players, I could see them moving around. Like he seemed a bit static. Like he wasn't really moving the ball forward, in my opinion. But then I saw stats to say that he had a very high percentage of pass completion. So that's why when it comes to stat, you have to always take it with a pinch of salt, but also put it into context because those passes that equaled his highest completion in terms of it being, I think it pretty much nearly got 100%, like around the 90 percentile sort of thing. That is an indication that he's just doing sideways passes. Because I'm watching him in the game, I didn't feel like he was adventurous. I didn't feel like he was being, you know, advanced in my opinion. So So no, I wasn't very pleased with him, if I'm being honest with you. So for me, I'm gonna give him a 6, um, which might seem high based on what I've just said, but I'll justify that opinion because I don't think he was poor, but I don't feel like he was as impactful. And because he kept the ball, I guess he helped us to an extent, but in the second half, it didn't feel like that. So yeah, not the best of performances from Jones. So Bosley, for me, wasn't at his best today at all. Started the game off decent, I guess, but as the game went on, he lost the ball on numerous occasions. Whether it's getting tackled because he's not able to retain the ball, or he's losing the ball with forward passes. Like he wasn't helping us maintain possession. So for me, that was a bit frustrating. The only sort of plus sign would be his penalty. He was a very well executed penalty. So because of that, I probably boosted his rating a little bit more. Um, I'll give him a 5 out of 10. I don't think he was great today, but I did like his penalty at the end. So I'm boosting up a little bit. I'll probably boost it from a 4 to 5 if I'm being honest. I don't think he was that good. And speaking of someone that wasn't good was Mohamed Salah. I thought he was poor today. Very much MIA. Don't remember him doing much. I remember him, doing passes with Frimpong that right hand side. Didn't really trouble the keeper. He had that one shot from Kirk's cross in the second half, but apart from that, not involved from an attacking point of view. Didn't really get into goal scoring chances. Wasn't creating much because if you're not scoring goals, you're not trying to be a creator as well, isn't it? Didn't really do either of those tasks today, in my opinion. And the penalty, less said the better. Poor effort. I don't know what he was doing. Last week he was trying to do the Panenka, which just hit off very embarrassingly. This one I just don't get. Honestly, too much power. The body language wasn't there in terms of stepping up for that penalty. Not sure what's going on with him. So, it's a conversation that probably needs to be said at some point because we do have players that are, capable of stepping up to be penalty takers. Um, but yeah, very, very disappointing performance from Mo today. So I'm gonna give him a 4 out of 10. I think he wasn't involved as much and wasn't, providing any support for the players around him. So for me, poor performance from him. For Verts, I enjoyed his performance today. I thought um, he was a decent player in the first half. Second half, lost a bit of the possession. There was a couple of times where he got fouled, and referee pretty much ruled out. It wasn't a foul in my eye. I think there was one with Gay, and he was complaining to the ref, but the ref was like, "No, you got to play on." So for me, not the best of performances, but I still feel like he showed a glimpse of his quality. I feel like he was very, very intricate in terms of passing, and that was especially in the first half. The passing that he was doing with Ekitike, you'd feel like they've been playing with each other for years. So good players always tend to click, quicker than normal, and I feel like Verts is definitely evidence of that. So for me, good performance, not his best level. I don't think it's his best showing at all, but a little glimpse of what he's about. So for me, I'm going to give him a number seven, just like his shirt number. Um, Gakpo now. He's been getting a lot of negative um, opinions, I would guess, online in terms of his performance here. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say he was amazing or spectacular or anything to that nature, but I feel like the reaction is a little bit overboard from some of our fans, uh, suggesting that he was one of our worst players. He was far from one of our worst. Salah and Van Dijk for me were probably one of the worst players in today's performance. Gakpo for me tried his best. There were a couple of occasions where he did really well to help out with the defending responsibilities, helping out with Kirkes in that moment there. Um, yes, he's a bit predictable in terms of his running and cutting in, but we all know he does that. He's a right-footed left winger, so they're always going to do that. Had a couple of shots that got blocked. The second goal, yeah, poor from his part, where he's such a big guy for him to get nudged off the ball like that. Slightly embarrassing. I don't think he was that bad. I think the feedback for his performance here, I think, is reactionary. It really is. Um, so I'm gonna give him a 6 out of 10. Let me know in the chat what you guys think. Maybe I'm being a bit generous there. I don't think he was that bad. Um, I feel like there's always a player that becomes the scapegoat of every team, and I think unfortunately he might fall into the bracket only because he's the only recognized left winger in our squad. And unfortunately, he's getting a poor reception, in my opinion. So I don't think that's justified. He wasn't great. I don't think he was bad either. So yeah, a little bit reactionary from certain corners of the fan base. But yeah, I'm not happy with that kind of feedback from him. I think he did all right today. Ekitike, I was very impressed with him. Just from the first moment in terms of how he played, the scored the first goal, his first shot of the game, lovely executed finish there. And what impressed me, his work rate, where he was pressing from the front, he was attacking the channels on the left and on the right hand side. So he was definitely not a static player. He was roaming around, dropping deep to be the link up player as well. Really, really exciting player, and I'm really excited to see how he does for us next season because he looks like a very, very talented player. So for me, he gets an 8 out of 10. And that is my player ratings. Let me know in the chat, if you agree or disagree, or if you want to present your ratings, feel free to do so. Before I present the subs, I'm going to label my man of the match. And my man of the match goes to Hugo Katike. I know he's on level points with Konate, but I think based on what he's produced today, I was very impressed with his performance. So for me, Ekatike is my man of the match. Let me know in the chat who your man of the match is for today's game. Now, in terms of the subs, 4 subs came on today, so let's try and put them on the screen. So we've got Endo replacing Jones. Let's bring on Endo. And then we have McAllister for Ekatike. And we have Harvey Elliott for Verts. And we've got Robertson for Kerkez. So let's start with Endo. Endo came on, and did his thing. Very aggressive, pretty much on the front foot, making crucial blocks here and there. No real impact in terms of his passing range, unfortunately, I don't think. But came in pretty much, helped shut shop a little bit, but didn't really contribute to the overall player of the team, in my opinion. So for me, he gets a 5 out of 10. McAllister came on, sprayed some good passes around, but for me, wasn't as influential as I would have liked him to have been. And of course, the penalty miss for me was a bit of a downer, so I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10 as well. Harvey Elliott, I was very disappointed with his cameo. Maybe it's because we've got more dynamic players in our team, but I feel like he looks so slow. And I'm not being disrespectful here. He's just not on the same sort of wavelength in terms of thinking, in terms of his movement or his pace. Like, he just doesn't fit into the new way of playing under Arne Slot. So that's why I feel like he will pretty much leave the club very, very soon. I'm not saying he's not a good player, he's a very technical player, but I don't think he fits the way we want to play. And today didn't really have an impact off the bench, and the penalty was one of the worst penalties of today's performance. So for me, unfortunately for Harvey Elliott, I'm going to give him a 4 out of 10. And the final player was Robertson. I actually thought Robertson did produce a good cameo. He came on, produced some good crosses from the left back position. Um, so for me, came in, solidified that position. So I thought he had a better performance in comparison to the other subs. So I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. So that's my player rating overall. So what I'll do now is I'll go through the chat. And if there's any callers, feel free to come on. Otherwise, we will close the show. Uh, so yeah, so let's start with this comment. So AR, big up AR. He says, this is his player rating. So Ali is given 7, Kirkes 6, Van Dijk 4, Konate 5. That's very low for Konate. I thought Konate was one of our best defenders today. Pong 7, Szoboszlai 4, just Jones 5, Gakpo 5, Vert 7, Salah 4, 7.5 Ekatike, Endo 6, Makas 5, Robbo 5, Elliot 5, and man of the match Henderson. You've given it to the opponents there. Fair enough. Ozwrld says Gav will be back on Friday for Bournemouth and Maka will start. So Gravenberch is suspended. Remember, he picked up a red card on the last fixture of the season, so he's not available next week. So We won't see him. I think it's a one-match suspension, so we should see him, maybe in that Newcastle fixture, which will definitely have some fireworks in there, depending on where Isak is. But see, that might be his next fixture that he starts, I think. Ozan Kabak says, I'm surprised both Mohamed Salah and Maka missed their penalties. Two players that are usually reliable from the spot. I think with Salah, definitely still a surprise, but I think because he missed that one last week, it's kind of just like, oh, here we go again. Like, what are you doing? So it wasn't like a huge surprise. The McAllister one was more of a surprise for me because he's normally so good. It wasn't a very well executed penalty. The accuracy wasn't bad. It was towards the corner, but it just lacked the power, and that gave Henderson a chance to make that save in the end. So yeah, very, very surprising. I think we've got to do a bit of penalty shootouts in our training sessions because right now we're lacking in that area, so we've got to improve on that. AR says we need uh, centre back, CDM number 9, and winger. Centre back, 100%. I think the centre back we won, we saw him today lifting up the trophy, and that was Mark Gay, and he produced a great performance today. He was so good on the ball, defensively sound as well. So for me, definitely has to be our top target in this window. And in terms of number 9, should be Isak, hopefully. Uh, DM, I don't think we'll address that role this summer, but I do understand it based on today's performance. But maybe because Gravenberg wasn't there, and we felt we missed his presence in the midfield. And a winger, I would like for us to get another winger to rival Gakpo on that left hand side. So out of the four, I think we'll get 3 out of the 4. That's me hoping, not me guaranteeing, because I'm not sure what the club will do. But that's me hoping that we get 3 more through the door. AR says we need these players to adapt, uh, play together and gel together. We made a lot of changes at once, and we need squad depth. Yeah, we've made a lot of subs. A lot of subs. We've made a lot of changes to our current squad. So that includes, subs coming on, so they're not quite used to the way we're playing. And new signings do take a bit of time to gel, but having said that, I feel like the new signings have actually settled in really well. So uh, it's just a matter of time that they all click together properly. And once they do, we should have a very special team going forward. Uh, Ozan come out says, suppose that was poor, man. Not gonna lie, Ozzy, 3 for me. Sorry. No, you're entitled to your opinion. I probably just boosted up a little bit because of that penalty, but no, you're entitled to it because you were in the chat when we were doing the watch along, and he was giving away a lot of the passes. So yeah, you're not wrong in terms of your assessment there. Ozzy Khan says Mo had that one chance late in the game. Ozzy, remember, but he hit straight at the keeper. Yep, that was the Kirkus cross. Hit him with good power, but when I looked at the replay, I feel like he hit it on his right foot, so it kind of took the sting away, which yeah, was looked a bit bizarre. But yeah, Salah hasn't quite found his form yet, which is a slight worry, but not too much to be hugely concerned by. But we still have to assess and analyze these players on a game basis. Other concepts he forgot. Um, Ozzy, could we have used Darwin today late in the second half? Yeah, we could have. To be fair, we could have. Not sure if it made much of a difference, but yeah, we could have done with an extra tackle because we didn't really have a striker on the bench. I know Chiesa was there, but I'm not sure if Chiesa. I feel like one part of me feels like he's gonna stay, another part feels like he's gonna leave. So it gives me deja vu vibes from last season where Slot hardly played him when he was available. So clearly he's not favoured by the coach. There's no point of him being there. So if that is the case, and that is the vibe, then just sell the player so we can get that next attacker in. But I would be concerned if we sell him because then we're losing a lot of depth in our squad. And like AR said earlier on, we don't need to just get rid of players. The strength in depth has to be kept. And that is my concern. I don't want us to just sell players because it takes longer to gel as a collective. So for me, hopefully we can get those players through the door. We've only got, I said, just under 2.5 weeks there. So yeah, just under 3 weeks actually. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I said Nunez scored today for Al Hilal. Did he really? Wow. No surprise there. He's gonna cook there. It's gonna be easily for him to score goals in. Deleuze TV actually says I'm crashing out. Yeah, I hear you, but it's just a glorified preseason. Let's not go too overboard with it. Deleuze Steve said, "Where was Starboy Rio?" I thought he would have got some game time today. yeah, a little bit surprised by that. So it probably paints a picture that maybe Slot doesn't seem as quite ready for the first team. So we just have to be a bit more patient with his development. But hopefully Liverpool can get that winger that comes in, and we have real strength and depth in our wide areas. But yeah, let's see what happens. Only time will tell. In terms of latest transfer, I read earlier on today that Tsimikas wasn't in the squad because Nottingham Forest are very much on the heels to sign him, so he could be moving over there. But he's also got interest from teams outside within Europe. So let's see, where he'll end up. I think he'll definitely leave now. Um, and Mark Gay, apparently Liverpool and Palace are going to have talks next week regarding a possible transfer. So if Liverpool can get it over the line, that will help us going forward. Uh, to be honest, Oz, are you not worried about the defense, bro? Um, I'm not hugely worried, but I am concerned that we don't have the depth because if Konate is injured, then that's a worry because I feel like out of the two between him and Van Dijk, he was a better defender. But like, I don't really want to see Endo being our centre back or Gravenberg being a makeshift centre back or even Robertson playing there. I feel like, yeah, we need to be a bit more active in the market. I want two centre backs. I've said it quite a few times, but I don't think the club will do that. But I like to be proven wrong because we have been linked with Gay, we've been linked with Leone. If we brought those two players in, then it gives me a bit more comfort that we have the players in the ranks or we have enough cover for those positions because if people aren't performing or they're not quite up to speed, you want to rotate. Not everyone is invincible in this team. So I do feel like if squad rotation is needed at some course of the season, we need to have those players available in the squad. So that's my concern. We don't have the numbers now. Joe Gomez is out, and I don't know how long for because there's been no confirmation in terms of the extent of his injury. They mentioned it was his Achilles, and Achilles injuries don't heal overnight. So I'm a little bit concerned by that one. So if that is the case, and he's got a medium to long term injury, we have to sign two centre backs. It's a must. Um, so we'll see what the club does, but I am a little bit concerned. But I do feel like we can, still have a good start to the season. But once we have one or two injuries, it will impact us going forward. So that is my concern going forward. Delusive says I'm concerned about the first 5 games for real. I hear you. We've got some tricky fixtures coming up, but I'll keep the hope alive and feel like we'll do well. Hopefully, the first game against Bournemouth, it will be the one where we, start really well, and then that will give us, a good sort of stepping stone or blueprint to keep going forward and take it one game at a time. So we'll get there. We'll get there. Still very early doors. Teams still getting accustomed to each other. We're still addressing the squad with new additions. So hopefully, once that's all wrapped up by the end of the month, we can solely focus on football. And yeah, no more transfer talk for the coming weeks after the window closes. So once we know where we stand, we'll know, which players will be available and which players are available for selection. So yeah, let's see how it goes. Uh, and just got a caller here, so let me bring him on. And it is Jay Kismet. JK, how you doing, bro?
I'm good, bro. What you saying?
I'm good, bro. Let me know your thoughts. What did you think of today's game?
I was just a little bit disappointed at the end. I knew it was
Yeah,
coming. 2-1 up, go for the third, wrap the game up. I think we allowed them just to come in, score their goal, and they were up for the penalties. Even though
yeah,
we won which end we're going to take the penalties, and we won the toss for who's taking the first one. But all in all, bro, it's just disappointment. I feel when you look at our subs bench, very
yeah,
a lot of youth players in there.
yeah,
Gravenberch missing, but he comes in. Jones drops to the bench for me. I think Jones again played, but you didn't really notice him.
yeah.
100% pass completion rate, but for me, he will never be like Gerard, bro. You're 1-0 down, and he'll grip the ball 30, 40 yards, run, whack it, and win us like get his 2 goals. Just like he ain't gonna do that ever for us. And I
No,
think having him as a sub, fair enough, cool. We need subs. Because when you look at our squad right now, we have got rid of a lot of people. Our net spend is 93 million. euros. So the owners have not just spent and said, you know what, we're keeping Darwin and Diaz and Kwanzaa. When you look at Kwanzaa now, I would have just kept him. The fee won 100 million. It was
Yeah.
35 million. And for me, that was just one of the weirdest ever transfers that we didn't really need to do. And I think today, look, first half, great. We played some beautiful football. Ekatike works. It was clicking nice. And normally last season, what happened, we'd have a bad first half, second half, Arne Slot would sort it out
Yeah.
and bang. And what Arne does is he don't think, you know what, let's put our foot down even more second half and take the
Yeah.
game by a couple of goals. We started off the second half pretty well, but I just reckon we allowed them to get into the game, bro. Will Hughes
Mm.
came on and controlled the game.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Out of all the people, it was Will Hughes. That doesn't even make sense.
And he supports Liverpool as well.
Yeah, he's a boyhood
Will
red.
Hughes. I found out today, I was like, okay, no wonder he
Yeah,
put
we
his
were
foot down.
listening back in the day. I remember him being a player for Derby, and it was quite renowned that he was a Liverpool fan. So I actually remember him from back in the day. But yeah, for him to come on and have that impact more so than Adam Wharton, yeah, it's slightly unheard of, isn't it, for that to happen? But I agree with your point in terms of Jones. I feel like with Jones, he's not going to be a Gerrard. He's not that kind of profile. That's not really his game. From a position point of view, yes, he plays as an attacking midfielder and he's adapted to playing as an eight as in a six as well. But he's not that type of player. He's not dynamic enough to be that player. I still feel like he's an important member of our team where off the bench or in rotation where you need someone that's good to cover certain positions. But I think in terms of ball retention, that's one of his strengths where so Bozai doesn't have that. I think Jones does, where if Jones has got the ball and there's like three guys after him, he knows how to hold on to the ball and then release it, in the right time. So Bozai might go for a fancy flick or isn't even aware that people are trying to tackle him. That's my concern with Bozai in terms of his performance today. So with Jones, I feel like maybe because Gravenberg wasn't available and McAllister's not fully fit yet, we've kind of realize that our strength in depth isn't as high as we maybe initially thought in midfield. That's why a lot of fans are suggesting that we should, address that and get another defensive midfielder in. But I don't know if that's going to be the case, to be fair. But in terms of other players, for me, Ekitike, I agree, stood up really well.
Yeah.
Good partnership with Verts.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. I mentioned earlier on as well, like it's a flip side of how we were last season. We were good in terms of being a team that's slow and composed in the beginning, and then the second half we kind of, you know, go a bit more aggressive, and then we try and get the goals in the end. It's the
Mm-hmm.
opposite. We're more aggressive in the first half, but second half, I don't know what it was, but it just felt like we took our foot off the gas a little bit, and I feel like they wanted it more. Maybe because
Yeah.
they had a bit more of an urgency to win because they get another piece of silverware into the cabinet. That's what it felt like to me because Ismail Assar ended up playing like prime Mane today. Like he was just unstoppable at times, which was really annoying. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the defense were kind of just caught off guard where they were pushing up further back, and that's not normally how we play. We play a bit more further up. So because of that, we pretty much attracted or gave them the space to attack us in that way. So for me, slightly concerning in terms of the second half performance, but I'm not concerned going into the season. I feel like we have a lot of quality in our squad. It's just finding the right dynamics or the right way of playing that's going to allow everyone to gel in the right way. So, are
Mm-hmm.
you concerned going into the first game next week, or do you still have some high hopes that we'll produce a good performance against Bournemouth?
I'm never worried. Like I always say, we're going to win the league, even if we ain't brought no one, even if we're not playing great. You know what I mean? But it's just the way it is with Liverpool. I'm not worried,
Yeah,
but I'm a little bit concerned regarding the defensive side of the game. I think
yeah,
Liverpool, we're always going to score goals. Look at today, bro. Salah weren't even involved. We still got 2 goals. That was good to see. Okay, Salah didn't get both goals or whatever. That we only rely on him.
yeah,
Today we've seen a little bit from the other guys. I don't worry, but I'm just a little bit concerned about. For me, I reckon we need a striker.
yeah,
Even though, okay, striker is actually my last priority right now. For me, it's winger, DM, centre back. Isaac is the cherry on the cake, and that will give us two top strikers up top. But
Yeah.
DM, oh, imagine a DM. And I think Virgil with Fabinho, them days, felt more
Mm,
secure when you knew
yeah.
that Fabinho was in front of him. It's common sense, bro. And I think sometimes
Yeah.
Slot sort of he bamboozles me because he don't like playing with the nine. He don't like playing with the out and out DM. And those
Yeah.
for me are the most important parts of the pitch.
Yeah. It's
It's,
the spine, pretty much.
it's a bit too much. I don't really
Mm,
understand it. And I
mm.
answer Kabak's breast bro.
Yeah, I was just gonna put it on the
Sabotolai for
screen.
me is a guy who's got it in his locker to be a good player, but
Yeah.
he's like the weather, bro, unpredictable. You don't know what you're
Yeah.
getting, you know.
Yeah.
And he is a good little player. Like today, what I liked about him in the first half was interchanging with Wirtz,
Yeah.
pass, beautiful, great. But he gave the ball away so many times in that second half. I'm like, bruv,
Yeah.
go to Specsavers or what are you doing? Come on.
Yeah. Doing good,
And
man.
he weren't a guy like a Gerard who would sort of stamp out any team taking over us.
Mm,
Why don't our midfielders wake up and think, you know what, we're getting overrun here for the last 15, 20 minutes. What do
yeah.
we need to do to sort this out? So
Mm,
that's the bit. That's what for me, Sabotsalai isn't my cup of tea. Even
mhm.
though he is, I like the way he plays. I think he's a good little
Yeah.
player, but he's either good or rubbish. You know what I mean? He's either like Man City away, Tottenham away last season, man of the match performances, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden Southampton or whatever, not great.
I
Yeah,
got a comment
yeah.
from Julian Steve, who's asked, "Do you man feel that Wirtz could have made his presence felt more today?"
Well, first half he did a little taste of it, and hence why we took
Yeah.
control of that first half because
Yeah.
him and Wirtz, him and Sabotsalai and say Ekatike were the main guys who sort of put them on their back foot.
Yeah.
I think Wirtz will take a little bit of time. What we expecting, he got an assist today, so that was nice to see. But
Yeah.
I think I'm not going to put my expectations too high on him. 100 million, he didn't choose that fee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he is you just know he's a good player.
Yeah. I think we'll see the sort of the full ability of Wirtz as the season goes on. I think we're going to see glimpses, and I feel like that should appease the fans as time goes on. But I feel like we'll see it a few months down the line where he's fully up to gear, and he's ready to have a real impact in the team. I've been very impressed in terms of how he's performed in pre-season. He seems to have formed good partnerships with players like Ekitike on the pitch already. So I've
Hmm.
got very much high hopes for Wirtz going forward. You mentioned some positions that you would like us to address. What players do you have in mind? Is there any sort of names that you feel like could come in and do a job for us, or are you just
Hmm.
seeing kind of what players are available? Because we're approaching
Yeah.
the last few weeks of the window. Most transfers have been made, so it's quite difficult to get people out of their clubs right now.
Well, the old days of football, bro. You had your Platinis, Maradonas, Ruud Hullits, Beckhams,
Yeah.
names. Bro, you got people like Tesco who's going to cost you 70 million. Is
Honestly,
that I just don't understand the world we're living in right now. If
yeah,
Michael Jackson, Nicholas Jackson goes from Chelsea,
yeah,
he like for 70 million, bro. I'm giving up. I'm giving up, bro. I
yeah,
just don't understand. Hence why I can't give you names. Like when you really look at it, we're living in a world now where centre back wise, Gay from Palace and that lad from Parma are the only two names out there.
yeah,
And that's
yeah.
embarrassing for the world of football. I don't care what anyone says to me. The amount of money in
So
football, the
true.
amount of people playing football is
Yeah.
that's all we've got. That's bad.
It's very true because when we're looking at the market before, like the striker market is not much out there. That's why you've got Tesco going over for so much money. But like even the defense, like there's not a lot of like real quality defenders out there. And like you said, in terms of like when we were watching football growing up, there were an abundance of like real quality
Hmm.
in world football. Now it's just I don't know, like certain positions, there's a decline. Like strikers, like maybe because of the way football is going to right now, where it's all about systems, about having fluid front players rather than having real strikers or real gunmen in front of goal. Maybe that's taken the eye off in terms of developing a player into a star striker, if that makes sense. And then
Mhm.
defenders, they're defending in back threes and different shapes. So it's more so of you just being a physical presence at the back and just blocking any shots rather than actually being a ball playing defender. Like when we grew up, there were so many players like that that have that
Mhm.
capability. So it's a strange market. And look, in terms of the names, Gay and Leone, I like the both of them. Obviously, I'm not gonna say I'm a avid watcher or Palmer or anything to that nature, but from the compilations that I've watched, he looks impressive for an 18-year-old. Where I've seen him bully the likes of Lukaku and Vlahovic last season. So if he's got that mentality or that determination about him, for me, there's something that shows me that he's got star quality about him. And Gay showed it today. I know the first goal he pretty much helped us out a little bit in terms of the positioning, but he's someone I feel like ticks a lot of boxes, in terms of his age, in terms of his leadership qualities and adaptability to playing,
Experience. Mhm.
experience, can play on the left side, right side, both footed, can play in the back three or in the back four. So for me, he's the one that ticks a lot of the boxes. So it's a strange market. I really hope Liverpool can address those defensive areas because I think we need two centre backs. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm greedy when I say that out loud because of how much players we brought in and how much money we've spent. But I do feel like there's a gap in our squad because, as you mentioned, the Quansah deal now does seem a bit bizarre because if you're selling him, you're thinking your replacement is going to come through very, very quickly. But that hasn't happened yet. Maybe we thought we got the indication that the Mark Gay deal would have happened sooner rather than later. And that's why it appears like, we haven't been strategic in that regards. I'm really hoping that Gay is the one that comes in to replace Quansah in our squad. But I still feel like we need one more just because of Joe Gomez's inavailability.
Yeah.
He's injured right now. We don't know how long he's out for. Could be out for some time because it was an Achilles injury. Achilles injury you don't just fix in like a few days. It could be a medium to long term sort of layoff right now. So for me, it is a concern going forward. But I still have high hopes in terms of the season. I still have high hopes that we'll sign Isak. I feel we'll sign Gehi. Whether we get someone like Leone or a second centre back, I'm not too sure. A DM would be a cherry on top, but I don't think we'll get a DM. I think we'll wait until someone becomes available, in the next window, whether that's January or summer remains to be seen. Just gonna go through some of the comments and then we can close the show. So AR, big up AR. AR, if you want to call in, apologies. I know you've been waiting in the back. Feel free to call in and I'll get you on very, very shortly. He's sent a few comments. He said, Sabo, sloppy ball, weak in the tackle. He's normally aggressive in tackles, but I don't know what happened today. Like, he's very sloppy in possession, which was very, very disappointing to see today. AR says, Van Dijk gave pen and got stuck in when Salah scored the goal. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, Salah was in the game. He wasn't. He was MIA today completely. Gakpo's missing. I thought Gakpo had more of a presence than Salah, if I'm being honest. But
Mhm.
I think with Gakpo, it was bite sized, wasn't it? Like he did some good things here and there, but I don't think he did it to large extent. And because of that, I think you just look at what happened in the second. I think that's what we are as football fans. We remember what happened last, and that was in the second half. And I felt like because he had a really poor second half, it felt like he just had a poor game altogether. For him to get pushed away by Will Hughes the way he did, slight embarrassment. I'm not gonna lie, he's 6'2", 6'3". You can't get pushed like that. So yeah, slightly embarrassing in terms of how that happened. Poor pens by Liverpool, 100%, very poor pens. Surprising
Mhm.
from McAllister and Salah. Harvey Elliott, not saying I don't have any expectations of him, but you know, McAllister and Salah are bona fide penalty takers. So I know what to expect from them. So yeah, slightly disappointing in terms of Salah. Do you think Salah should be main penalty taker next season, or
Yeah, yeah. I've
should
no
we address
problem with
that
that.
position? Hmm?
It happens, bro. You're gonna miss.
Yeah,
He
of
was top
course.
scorer, so I've got no
Yeah.
problem with that. It's not a debate. I really want to.
Yeah,
Like
no,
the
no.
fans are gonna start debating that, aren't they? That's the last thing on my mind, bro. For me,
No, no,
I need a
I
centre
thought
back.
I'd ask the question because there has been a reaction online where fans are already debating it. I, for one, I
Right.
don't think that should be the case. Uh,
No.
look, today's a glorified preseason, and the one he missed last week is a preseason game. So you know, we just
Rather
got to,
now than later.
yeah, just got to calm
He's probably
down.
going to
Calm
practice
down.
all week now with his pens because he's missed
It-
them. You know what I
So be
mean?
it.
You ain't going to sit back and think, oh, God, I'm rubbish. I ain't taking no more like that.
Yeah.
He's going to think, why am I
Listen,
missing?
this is Mohamed Salah we're talking about. He's not just gonna, feel sorry for himself all of a sudden. He's gonna work hard and make sure he's better. The next time he has to step up. So I have every faith in Mohamed Salah to deliver going forward. AR says we need uh, technical CDM with the ball and release it forward. We need leaders strong and win the ball. I agree. Julius Steve says, I think Harvey's time at the club is done and dusted now. Yeah, I think it is as well. Where do you think he'll end up, JK? Do you think he'll
Uh,
end up at Tottenham or Red Bull Leipzig? Because those are the two teams that are chasing him right now.
Well, when you look at when he came on today, he got the ball, kept it. He actually gave us a bit of momentum back in the
Yeah.
game. I think Harvey Elliott is a good squad member. I've never had a problem with him. And that tackle he did on that lad, he got stuck in. Why? He loves Liverpool. He loves playing for Liverpool.
Yeah.
And he got stuck in one challenge today. I have no problem with him as a squad member. Look, bro, because when you look at our bench today, I think there was 3, 4 youth players, all good ones.
Yeah.
Fair play, Rio and Naoni and all that. But
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I just feel I'd rather have a Harvey Elliott there because
Yeah.
we know he can do something. Um, the fee we're asking for is about 50 for him. But who
Yeah.
we're going to replace him with in the thingy? I think Wirtz is probably Harvey's replacement in a
On
weird
paper,
sort of
yeah, I
way,
think it is.
you
Mm.
know. But the numbers are sort of low, quality wise in that squad now. Diaz, Darwin, Yota, Kwanzaa, Trent, all left. Tyler
Mm.
Morton,
Yeah.
Kelleher. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. Hence why I'm only concerned about we need another 2 players minimum before we start this
Yeah.
season. And I think by Tuesday, like 4 would be my ideal choice, but 2 by Tuesday or something that they can come in, settle down, get maybe play a part for Friday's game. The Isaac thing is going on a bit too much. EastEnders Coronation Street now. It's
Yeah.
like one day this guy's saying this, next day the other guy's saying that. You're going to get a lot of Newcastle journalists who want him to stay at Newcastle, hence why their stories might be that way informed.
Yeah. I
That's
agree.
why I'm not reading no one's comments or nothing. All I'm waiting for is the pictures of him with the shirt in his hand.
Yeah.
I think it's gone too far now. And us selling Darwin, fair play to him, he scored today, is
Yeah.
a big sign for me that the Isaac deal should happen very soon. You know,
Yeah.
but winger wise, bro, who are you going for? Because I think now Diaz is gone. We ain't got an
Mm.
out and out winger, even though Diaz didn't really cross the ball much
No.
as a winger. But I just
Yeah.
feel we lack a bit of a guy who can dribble, keep hold of the ball for 5, 10 seconds. You know, one
Yeah.
of them guys. Yeah,
For me, it's Barcola. That's the player I want because I feel like
yeah,
he has that in his locker where he can take on few players, in an amazing manner. He can. What's different about him to the players we currently have? He can attack in behind the defense. With wingers, I want it to be where he takes on the fullback and goes in a bit more of aggressive run. Whereas, we've also been linked with players like Rodrigo, and Rodrigo is a good player and technically really good, but he's a ball to feet type of winger. I want someone that actually gets the ball, can make things happen out of nothing, and goes on those kind of mazy runs or attacks the byline. So with that, you're creating space in around the box. So for me, Barcola is the one that I would look for us to sign. Is he available? I don't know. I don't think PSG would want to sell him unless they have eyes on Rodrigo, because that's been a link in the past that they want to sign Rodrigo. So if they want
okay.
Rodrigo in a serious manner, then that would mean Barcola is available. So at this stage, it's very hard to say because I don't know if there's too many wingers out there. I know we've been linked with like Malik Fofana, but I don't think he's someone that's going to have a huge impact into our squad. Rio, I
Hmm.
feel like that's a bit too much pressure on the kid to be challenging for that left wing position so soon. So I would like him to play for the under 23s in the next few months. And then when January comes around, that's we can kind of slowly transition him into the first team squad because Salah will be in AFCON. and we'll need an extra attacker within our squad. So for me, that would be the right time to slowly embed him to the squad, but not put pressure on him to deliver. You know, if
Hmm.
he's the direct backup to Gakpo, that's huge pressure on him. It really is. So I don't think that's right for him in terms of his development and his state of mind, because if he has one or two bad performances, unfortunately,
He
some
can
young
get
players,
pear-shaped. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it affects them going forward mentally, and
Look at
they're not able to come back to deliver their true potential. So we've got to be very smart in terms of how we manage him. But
I,
yeah,
I was saying this to
only time will tell.
yeah. Like I was saying this to 12 Man and that yesterday on their show about aren't you worried about how players come through? Kwanzaa, Bradley, Trent, and Ben Woodburn, Harry Wilson, all these guys who come through. Out of them, Trent is the only one who's made it.
Mm,
And what's happened to them? Like, where is Che Ojo now? Where's Ben Woodburn? Where are these guys now? God knows.
yeah,
Okay, Che Ojo's in Slovakia playing.
yeah,
We
it's in
found out
Europe somewhere.
yesterday.
Yeah,
So there you go. So for me, we as a club need to look after. Look at Kwanzaa, bro. He was compared
mm,
to Virgil van Dijk,
I know.
VVQ, all that. All of a
Yes,
sudden, he's a
yeah.
35 million pounds signing for Leverkusen. So
Mm,
I reckon no one helped him out when he got dropped in that first game against Ipswich. That shook him, took all his confidence away within in 15 minutes at halftime, or actually it was before halftime.
yeah,
So I'm a bit disappointed. Conor Bradley, has got the mentality to make it to the top. You could just know in the way he plays, the way
yeah.
he is. Never disappointed if he never starts. He's happy to be at Liverpool. So I'm a bit worried about that now. Like these young lads coming through now, Naoni and Rio, for example. God knows
Yeah.
where they're going to be in 3 years, bro.
It's difficult. Also, come back to mention Curtis has sort of made it. I think that's probably the right statement there, where I feel like when we compare it to, Gerrard's all that, it's very high sort of that's the
Ceiling, yeah,
best of the best, isn't it? It's very hard to compare youngsters to that kind of level in terms of their achievements. But I think with Liverpool, we're probably one of a few teams I would say in the league that actually try to promote our youngsters.
yeah,
Chelsea buy about 50 youngsters, but never give them a chance. So you've got United that they haven't brought anyone through the ranks for a number of years. I can't remember the
yeah.
last time they've actually brought someone that's, come of any real impact. Maino will probably be the last one, I guess, but I feel like he's fizzled
Overrated.
out in the last year as well. So
Yeah, but
it's
he's
a
no
lot of
Paul
pressure.
Scholes, is he?
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure on these kids because I feel like nowadays, I feel like when we were watching football back in the day, if a 16, 17, 18-year-old comes through, like they're elite level. Like when Mike Owen
Mhm,
broke through the team, and then even Raheem Sterling, like into the recent times, came through as a 17-year-old. They showed real talent, real promise. But in this day and age, when you're pushing a 16-year-old, you have to be careful because I don't feel like they're in a position where they're fully developed yet from a not from a growth or anything that kind of thing. I'm speaking more from a footballing
mentally.
point of view where
Mhm,
they haven't really been exposed to men's football. They've been playing
mhm,
academy level slash maybe under 23s, which was what Rio did towards the last stages of last season. Um, so yeah, we've got to be careful. I feel like it's very hard to just develop players in that manner, but I do feel like Liverpool do have one of the best youth academies in the countries where we do try to give our youngsters. They might not come through Liverpool, so they might not be scouts in that manner, but we do try to sign the best youngsters available. We just signed the Salford City striker quite recently, and he looked obviously he only played for about 10 minutes, but he looked right when he came on. So I feel like Liverpool have the right policy in mind to get these players and hopefully unveil them as the next big thing in years to come, but it's very hard to produce world class talent to that manner. Even the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona. Of course, Barcelona have Yamal, which is a generational talent there, and Pedri and Gavi, but not every club is able to produce that kind of level of talent all the time. So I think
mhm.
Liverpool are in a good place. Trey Nyoni, I've got high expectations of him. I think he's going to be a very important player for us for years to come. Rio looks like a special talent. He really does. I just want it to be where we're not burning him out so much because I feel like with Sterling, maybe one of his frustrations about the club when he was here was that we were overusing him as well. So maybe he didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel appreciated. And that was one of the reasons why he, Man City presented the carrot, which was a higher salary, and he just went for the money. And then after that, he had a good 2, 3 years at City, but after that, he hasn't been the same player ever since. So with young players, they're giving money too early, in my opinion.
Too early.
Uh,
Yeah, big time. For me, that's their
it-
main. They can't handle
yeah,
money, bro. You're coming from a family
no,
where you just have got a couple of a pint of milk and maybe cereal in
yeah,
the living really poor, not poor, but not great, and then
yeah,
bang,
working
you're
class, isn't it?
5 grand a week or 3 grand a week,
Yeah,
whatever it is. That's a lot of
yeah,
money for a 16, 17, 18 year
yeah,
old, and hence why they go pear shaped off the
yeah,
field stuff. And I think
yeah,
the family's responsibility is to look after their son. The son's going to turn around and
yeah,
say, "Listen, fuck off. I'm playing for Liverpool now. I do what I
yeah,
want." There you go, bro.
yeah. It's
I
very
think that
true.
happens to a lot of players, my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah. Just like United, in terms of Sancho when he joined there from Dortmund, how old was he? 19 when he joined United? 19, 20? They're getting 400 bags a week. Like,
Like,
that's
come on.
unheard of that you give someone 400K a week. Like that's how much Salah's earning right now. He's had to work his arse off to get that money
Yeah.
at Liverpool.
Sancho
So
just breezes through, gets it
yeah,
380 or something crazy, bro.
yeah. So
That's
when
messed
you're
his head
getting
up.
paid like that, you can't blame them for not being motivated because in their minds, which might sound shallow, but they've made it. So why do they need to work hard? Because they're at a big club and they're earning big money. That's enough for them. Maybe the titles and stuff doesn't mean much because the thing with football, it's a team game. So, if you don't perform well, you kind of spin around and say, "Oh, we haven't performed well." Does that make sense? So
Hmm.
you don't get looked as, if you're a boxer, if you lose, it's because you're rubbish. Like you lost the fight. In football, you can kind of cover your back and say, "Oh, we didn't perform well because of this and that." So with that, it's easy way to just hide behind the scenes and not take the blame for certain things. So for me, that is a thing, and I think that's one good thing from Liverpool's point of view, where uh, we don't give a lot of sort of high salaries to young players, and I feel like a lot of our salaries that is presented to our players is incentive based. So it's based on your performances, in terms of team achievements, and I feel like that's the right way to go. If you're giving someone a flat rate of 400K a week, for example, like that doesn't
Hmm.
make sense to me either. So unfortunately, it's the modern game where fans do unfortunately money is circulated a lot now in football. So because of that, people are earning crazy amounts of money, and unfortunately, it's not justified for certain individuals. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a
And
bit
that's
of
a
a crazy one.
major, it's a major problem with the. Why don't England ever win the World Cup? Why don't no English player get a Ballon d'Or? Why don't no English player ever be scouted as the best player in the world after Messi and Ronaldo, for example? Why? Because what happens is they play in England and they end up getting top wages at a young age, start
Yeah,
partying and stuff, and then they just lose track of the thing that's giving them that money. They lose track of that, so it's a vicious
and
cycle. Hmm.
yeah, I think we overhype England players as well.
Of
When
course.
you've got a player coming
Hmm.
through, like they are overhyped so much that
Hmm.
the media attention goes to them, rightfully or wrongfully, but it does affect their way of doing it because certain players, if they get a bit of stick, you're not gonna hear the end of it. But certain players kind of just get that blind and be like, "Oh, it's fine," he's got credit in the bank. So the media plays a part, I think, in that way. But also, as a nation, we do go a bit overboard in terms of glorifying as that guy as the next big thing, So it has an impact as well. But I feel like you're right in terms of the families and the parents having a role to play. But you've just mentioned that with some families, they're probably coming from a working class background where when you're giving so much money, even they don't know how to manage it. Does that make sense? So
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
it's it's a it's a role the club has to play to help with finances. And when you're a certain age, maybe they don't get the whole amount of money. Like it's based on what they need and what the requirements are, and do it based on that. I don't know how it would work, but I feel like with Liverpool we don't go crazy when it comes to salaries. But of course, once they've achieved a certain level and they've shown a good level of performance in the team, they do end up getting rewarded. So who
I
knows
think
in terms of
Curtis
what's
is
going to happen
on,
moving forward.
like Curtis, he's not on a top wage, 180, 200. He's on like 15 or something, like crazy, bro.
Yeah, Canada was on time. So that shows you that we don't just blow our money for the sake of it. It is based on merit in terms of what you do. Because parents can't be knocking on us like, oh, give me 200K, but you're not performing like you are a 200K player, if that makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
that is, I think, the right way to do things because when someone feels like they are what's the word? Like they are a bit more privileged because he's Scouse, so he's come through the ranks. Maybe he's thinking, I've been here the longest, like I should be earning a certain amount of money. It doesn't work like that. You have to do it based on the output that you produce on the pitch. And for me, he's a good player. I know some people don't like him at all. I like Curtis Jones, but I feel like it's in terms of his role, he's more of a squad player, which I don't mind. I'm content with having him in the squad because I feel like on and off the pitch, he's a valuable member. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do feel like, sometimes, he can be a bit inconsistent. And in the past, I think injuries have affected him as well because there'll be a time where he's had two, three good games and he's picked up an
Mm-hmm.
injury, then, back to square one, regaining
Mm-hmm.
fitness and regaining that form. So, that's not helped him in his development. But yeah, I think we Liverpool are in a good position. It's just, it's very hard to unearth those wonder kids, on a seasonal basis. But we might have one in Rio and Trey Nioni as well. So, um, only time will tell. But JK, appreciate you
Mm-hmm.
coming on. Thank you for
Good
letting
to
us
have a
know in terms
chat.
of what you thought of today's game. And yeah, it's the start because obviously we've got the season coming up, so we'll be doing more calling shows. So I hope
For
to speak
sure.
with you soon, very, very soon.
Take care, bro.
Cool, bro. Take care. Speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye. That was JK. So we got to JK as always. Just gonna go through some of the comments before we close the show. Uh, AR says LFC subs were at the wrong time taking the critique up. Yeah, I don't. I think the reason we took Ekatike off it was because we're short in numbers in terms of that striker role, and then we didn't want to overuse him too much. He's just started preseason with us, so we have to make sure we don't, overburn him out so soon as the season's about to begin. So I understand the call, but it goes to show we need to add some more firepower in our squad because it can't just be Ekatike that we rely on. And there's clearly no faith in Chiesa because he wasn't even brought in altogether. So we definitely need to address those positions before the end of the window. Also, we took Rio from Chelsea. That's correct. So that's why I said that I think a lot of the talents that are coming through our youth ranks, they have been players that have been bought from other clubs because we've identified them. So I feel like scouting is not bad in terms of finding the next young player. It's very hard for some clubs to find talented players in their own areas. Like I'm from South London, and I know there's a lot of talent here, but it's just you know I don't think with young players it's all about talent. It's a mentality thing where I feel like they need to have the mentality to be a top class professional. And when I say top class professional, they have to give up social life. They have to, put everything on the line for that football career. And in this day and age, it's very hard for youngsters to do that. So that's a part of the game where if they're driven and they really want to be the best in the world, or they want to play for Liverpool, or they want to strive to be at that level, they have to commit to the cause and they have to put everything to the side. Whether it's attending birthday parties and family occasions, those get put to one side as well. So it's a hard way of looking at things, but when you're committed and you really want something, you have to be tunnel vision when it comes to achieving those goals. So with young players, I feel like they need to have that embedded in them quite early for them to achieve that goal. But also, it comes down to luck as well. When I was growing up, there was a lot of players that I thought were probably good enough to play semi-pro or professional level. Maybe didn't have the right mentality or the right mind frame to go to that level, and maybe they weren't fortunate enough to get scouted. So these are things that I feel like we have to take into consideration. But from a Liverpool point of view, I feel like we've got a good crop of youngsters. I'm very pleased with how Trenioni's been developing, with Rio as well. Some players, they haven't worked out, but for numerous reasons, young players, because they're at that teenage years where their bodies are going through, growth and development, like they pick up injuries. Basic picked up a lot of back injuries, after he turned 18, Pete Gordon has been injured on a regular basis. Unfortunately, he's not got his career going because of that. So because of the growth spurt and all that sort of stuff, that is impacting their bodies, and they're not able to play to the way that they've played as they were growing up. So a lot of these little things have to be taken into consideration. But I think Liverpool on a great path. That's why young players are coming to Liverpool. Rio came from Chelsea because of how we are as a club, how we are as a as a as a football establishment, where we give youngsters the opportunity into the first team. So we're definitely an attractive proposition to young players coming through. AR says Jones tried to look the part as a TDM, but by tucking his shirt into his NFC shorts, keeping it old school, I guess. Stuart's big up says only thing Pong impressed me. Ping Pong was very good today. Ekitike for me, Ekitike was my man of the match. But yeah, I feel like um, he was definitely a player that showed a good account of himself today. Uh, AR says, look at Yamal 18th birthday. He had a crazy party and had midget in his party. Yep, that is true. Delirious Steve said, Ozzy showed the midgets on stream. I remember. Yeah, I came across that picture on social media then and thought, like, I don't know why I saved it, but I thought, it might come across in a conversation. And ironically, it did on that day. So yeah, had it perfectly lined up for you guys. But yeah, crazy. Honestly, God knows what those midgets were doing. They're probably just jumping around or whatnot. But yeah, to have that in your mind as an 18, be like, yeah, I want midgets for my birthday. It's just wild. Like 18, you're probably thinking, yeah, I want to go arcades or something like that. Not midgets in my birthday party. That's just yeah. You can't make stuff up, honestly. Stuart says we are not ready for the new season. Let's not lie. No, we've still got a lot of work to do. I don't think anyone's fully ready. Even Palace would agree that they're not fully ready. But I think quality should prevail in this situation where next week against Bournemouth, we should have enough in the locker to get the win. That's the most important thing. Now it's all about gaining points, gaining that advantage, that positive start for us to be up the table, from day one. That's the key for us going forward. So that's what we need to do going forward. Um, AR says we need reinforcement squad depth at LFC. Yeah, we do, 100%. AR says we need two centre backs, experienced and young players. That's a great. That's the right profile for me as well. CDM winger number 9. We have work to do in the market. I think we'll get 3 players. I think it'll be a centre back, and it'll be a winger, and it'll be a number 9. Um, but let me know in the chat. Let's say we can only sign 3 players. What areas would you strengthen, and what players would you bring in? So, in ideal, I'd probably say I think a centre back, a winger, and an attacker, because I feel like we've so many players in our attacking positions that we're quite short up top. So for me, that needs to be addressed, and I feel like we do need to add numbers to our squad. So hopefully, we'll get some developments in the next few days. Gay, if that comes through the door, I'll be so pleased with that, because I think it'd be a great addition to our squad, and just gives me a peace of mind that we're solid when it comes to our defensive options. I think Isak will just present that fear factor. Fans are laughing at our defeat today, but if Isak was to come through the door next week, it's gonna shut their mouths. Let's be honest. So that's the signing that I want. Barcola's a dream signing for me. I don't know if that'll happen, but I think another winger needs to be added to the squad. Someone that can play on the left and the right, and I feel like it covers all cylinders for us. So fingers crossed. We do make some more additions to the squad. Delulu Steve says Richard Hughes knows the job ain't done yet. Just win the Ozzie. Hope that FSG back him. Um, just got a call and let me bring him on. So AR is on in the background. Let me bring him on. AR, how you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm all right. Assalamu alaikum. You okay?
Wow, just bro. I'm good, bro. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, yeah. Just wanted to come on, but yeah, I think JK was on.
Yeah, apologies. I was trying to. I think I was trying to message you in the back, but yeah, you'd come off. But yeah, glad to have you on the show. I think it's the first time we've actually spoken. You've been a strong supporter of the channel, so I appreciate you. Being active in our streams, and yeah, appreciate you coming on. So yeah, feel free to have your say. The platform is yours.
Yeah. Now the reason why I come on your show because it's like a quiet, it's like a small range of people you got. That's why I just go on
Yeah,
your show, because when you go on them big shows, it's like they argue a lot, and they're very,
yeah,
it's like very tribal and very aggressive, and it's not very toxic at the same time. So I thought I'd go to the
yeah,
small shows like
yeah,
Anfield Irishman or
yeah,
someone like that, or yours.
yeah.
So that's the reason why I come to your show and Anfield Irishman.
Yeah. No, appreciate that. No, with some channels, I feel like, yeah, the narrative can be a bit different where, some content creators, I'm not going to name names, but they do go for those sort of viral moments or have those kind of debates. For me, it's all about just having football chats, football discussions, talk about things that have happened. Like today, we'll talk about the match, but just, civilized conversations. No one's, above anyone else. No one's got an ego or anything. So for me, the reason why I've created this channel is just to talk football. It's something I love doing.
Yeah,
I could do it all day if I wanted to. So yeah, so that's why I've created this community, and yeah, you're definitely one of them. So appreciate you coming on. So let me know your thoughts on on the match today. I know you sent quite a few comments today.
yeah.
What's
The
your overall
comments,
feeling
yeah,
about today?
yeah. I think the comments I did say in the comments, but yeah, I think first half we played all right. Second half we didn't. It's just
Yeah,
I think when Will Hughes came on, he made Florian Wirtz quiet a bit as well.
yeah,
I think because their player got injured, and I think it's just like I don't know. We're trying to compromise that kind of midfield position, putting Soboslai there, but I don't know. It's just I don't know why we were saying it like a year or 2 year ago, like after Fabinho and Henderson and Gini Wijnaldum left. We need that defensive midfield. Someone just like reassure the midfield, but I don't know why all of a sudden we went all gun ho on the forward line and then chopping and changing because we won the
yeah,
league last season. This now I'm like questioning. Obviously, the season has started. This is just like a competitive preseason
yeah,
trophy. That's it. But it's not. We should have we should have gone strategically into the right areas. Like we got
yeah.
Kwanzaa left. Why did we not get a centre back in?
Very good point. That was a surprising thing for me. I feel like they kind of jumped the gun on that one. I thought they thought maybe the Gay deal was on the verge of happening, or maybe they've had private discussions and they got the indication from the player that he's ready to move. But it's not really about the player because I feel like whenever you sell a project from Liverpool, most players are going to accept it, aren't they? So they haven't agreed a fee with the club, which is a concern for me. And I feel like we've left ourselves a bit short in the defensive position because now it's only Virgil and Konate that are recognized centre backs. Joe Gomez is injured. I have no idea, how severe that injury is. And right now you've got Endo that can make uh, a bit of a conventional centre back there. You've got Gravenberg, but I wouldn't want to put Gravenberg in that position. Um, if the idea is to have Gravenberg or Endo as your backup centre backs, then we have to sign another midfielder, in my opinion. We need to sign, a Fabinho type of midfielder that glues the midfield together and gives that protection to the back line. Because right now, today was probably evident, as talented as Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones are individually, as a collective, it didn't work. They were too similar in terms of going forward or from Curtis Jones' point of view, too many sideways passes in my opinion. But they didn't really do the sole job of being a double pivot, which is to provide protection for your back line. So that's a concern. I have no idea, how Liverpool are going to move because we've not been linked with too many defensive names. I think the only names that we could probably say on top of our heads are Leone from Parma and you've got Gay. So they're the only two that I feel like could be the ones that come through the door. I'd like it to be where we're surprised and all of a sudden we just sign a random centre back that we're like, oh, okay, this is an interesting one. But I don't know if we're going to get that kind of surprise signing from us. But the attacking positions need to be addressed as well. We've sold Diaz, we've sold Nunes, who you mentioned scored today. So, if you're selling these players, they need to be replaced directly because they were first team players. They weren't just squad players. They were pretty much in the lineup on a weekly basis. So for me, I hope we're not left short by the end of the window. If you had any names on top of your head, who would you like to see come through by the end of this window.
Yeah, like Mark Gahey, like because he's an England international, he's a leader.
Yeah,
You can see him like will fit in and he hit the ground running. Like
yeah,
someone like that. Obviously, he had an injury, like a niggle injury kind of thing. I think he like a cramp or
yeah.
something like that.
I hope
But
so.
yeah, and one thing is these Italians like they're not they don't get they're not that good in the Premier League, excluding like Zolas and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, that's
but
a
it's
good
just
point.
but I don't know, and he's young as well. We don't know what we're gonna get. It's like a risk taking a young
Yeah,
defender and like what he did with Kwanzaa, like he didn't trust Kwanzaa because obviously Klopp trusted him, but Slot
yeah,
didn't really trust him from the Ipswich game, from the first game of the season last season. It's just I don't know. I just want to like focus solely on that the defensive, like the centre back, and like
yeah,
a defensive midfielder. Because Gravenberch looks like an A. Soberslai, we just put it. You can put him as an A, even McAllister, but
yeah,
we don't. And then Endo, he's like just a backup coming on, like reassuring in the second half, just to.
yeah.
But we do need. It's just like I've seen little cracks in our game. Like I think he hasn't really sorted that side out of it.
No. As much as I love Endo, I think Endo has limitations in terms of his sort of ball playing ability where, he's a decent passer, but he's not going to be a playmaker. He's not going to split defenses open from a sort of defensive position. So he's good to have it as a squad player, but I see what you're saying because maybe because Gravenberg's not here today, we're feeling the impact more, but it does feel like there's a bit of a gap in our midfield where Gravenberg normally does the sort of the dirty work where he uses energy to cover ground and protect the back line to an extent. But like you said, when he came through the Ajax ranks, he was actually number 8, but he played in a double pivot, so he played in 2 different roles. So he's a player that is more of a ball carrier. So for me, I feel like he needs to be alongside someone that complements that sort of skill set as well. And when you've got Gravenberch and Sabozla, who to me, I'll be honest with you, they look good in preseason together. But then again, it's preseason, so you can't say too much in terms of they're going to run teams over. When it's more competitive opponents going forward. But I feel like a defensive midfielder is definitely a position we need to add to our squad. I just don't know if there's anyone available for Liverpool to go for because you're seeing Baliba being linked
Yeah.
with £100 million move to United, which I rate him. He's a good player, but I don't know, 100 million sounds like a lot of money for me for a defensive midfielder.
Yeah, someone like Stiller or Edison, someone like
Still
that.
is a great shot. Still is a great shot.
It's
So he
just
wouldn't cost that much. He would cost about 30-40 million. So,
yeah,
and he's got great ability, and I think we've got to be careful with players like that because you'll see the likes of Real Madrid, taking them
yeah,
before we go in there. So you gotta, if you've scouted someone, you feel like they could be an impactful player, then you gotta get them on board. But the Leone thing, you have a very good point there because I mentioned this last week. I don't remember us ever having an Italian centre back. We had Paletta all those years ago,
and
but
that
he actually
Dosena.
came. Yeah, but he came at the club as a Argentine youth player, and then when he went over to Italy, he changed alliances. Then and he only made about I think 3 appearances for Italy, so he didn't really have a huge international career. But in terms of players, we're going back to the 90s. Zolas and your Vialis, like Italian
Yeah,
players don't
Ravanelli's and
really cut
stuff.
it. Exactly. Like you look at our history in terms of Italian players, Balotelli, Borini, probably less said the better because they had no impact in our team. So
Yeah,
Italians
even the
don't generally do well.
Aquilani as well. Like
Oh my god. Yeah, actually. So we bought him when he was literally injured as well. So that never helped in that occasion. So history will tell you, Italian players don't seem to gel well. But I mentioned this the other day. I'm thinking because Chiesa, I don't know Chiesa. I don't know if he's staying or going, but if he ends up staying, he could be the person that becomes like an uncle for for Leone and just like looks after him and tries to embed him. Because I think when these Italian players come to the Premier League, I don't know if it's completely based on the footballing aspect. It might be a cultural thing where they come from Italy, lifestyle's different, the weather and all that sort of
laid
stuff.
back. Yeah,
they
And
come here, it's
when they
like,
come to the Premier League, it's technical, quick, fast,
yeah,
and they can't handle it. It's just
and
some can, like obviously
yeah,
Tonali and stuff like that,
yeah,
and then Jorginho. It's just I don't know. It's just like they're taking a risk again, like, and they
yeah,
do. But yeah, just want someone like Mark Gahey, and then
yeah,
it's just like it's just certain little holes in our play because I can see cracks showing
yeah,
throughout the season, and if you don't rectify these issues and because we'll get exposed like against the top
yeah,
teams, like because I was watching Arsenal's game against the Atletico Bilbao and that Zubimendi, he looked good.
yeah. When we gave up on him last year, that
Yeah,
was frustrating as well that we never got him over the line. But I don't know, maybe London appealed to him more so than Liverpool. But I don't know. Players have their own sort of narratives, but I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm concerned about the season going forward, but yeah, we need a bit more assurances. I think once we add a few, if we get Gay through the door, I feel like that'll have a huge impact in our defensive setup because I feel like he's that good where he can play alongside Van Dijk or he can play alongside Konate, and I think they'll form great partnerships amongst each other. So for me, that will solidify our defensive position. I think once Gravenberg is back in the squad, I think he's giving birth to, as in him and his partner giving birth to a
yeah.
baby today. So that's why he's not available. Even though I heard someone say that he was actually there today, which I don't know if it's true or not. So I'm gonna have to do some research. Apparently, he was in the stadium, which doesn't make sense. But
Like the
you,
infamous Roy Keane comment when he said like he's not giving birth, like yeah, something like that. Like I know,
there
like
might be,
I hope his wife and the newborn's fit and healthy, but like
yeah,
we
exactly.
do
That's the
need
most important
someone.
thing.
We need. It's just I don't know. It's just there's few areas that even like when I
Yeah,
watch the game, I look at it in a way that what needs improving. Looking at it,
yeah,
obviously this is just a competitive preseason uh,
yeah,
um,
definitely.
charity shield game, and they're saying it's like a jinx in it because the last 15 charity shields um only
Yeah,
team that won the Premier League was only twice out of 15. But
yeah,
I just want to like I just want to look at this game as like like to already think about the future that what areas we need to
yeah,
improve and hope Klopp and Richard Hughes looks at the areas and gets the key players in. But we
yeah,
went all out on them forward. Obviously, Jota passed away, and
yeah,
and then we got rid of Nunez. He's just like brain dead. He doesn't know how to
yeah.
make time and space on the ball. He doesn't know how to finish. And then
No,
with Luis Diaz, he was good, and he was that second top goal scorer. He runs into dead ends, and you just and then
mm,
when you're tight when a defender tight on him, he can't go past him. I've
yeah,
seen that a few times with Luis Diaz, but and then it's just I don't know. It just feels like even in the midfield and in the centre back position in these areas, and also like I think Ekatike, he's raw talent. He's got all the
yeah,
attributes what you need, and we do need that number 9, Isak.
we do.
And then, but one thing about with Ekatike and Isak, the similar stature kind of players, like would they run for the same ball
Yeah,
if that Verts gives that through ball?
yeah. That's the thing, because when we were linked with both strikers, let's say a couple of months ago, that's how I profiled Ekitike, where I said he's pretty much like a baby Isak. Like he's very similar in terms of style of play. The only difference between the two, where let's say they were played together in the team, Ekitike likes to drop deep in certain positions, so he can be kind of like a not quite a number 10, but kind of in that false nine role where he likes to drop deep and be the link up between the midfield and attack. And Isak, that's not really his game. His game is to mainly go, front flow in terms of on the shoulder, or he likes to attack the channel, especially on that left hand side. So I think that dynamic could work, but I don't think you're far off. I do feel like they have very similar traits in their game, and I feel like Ekitike is probably what Isak was 2-3 years ago when he joined Newcastle, where he wasn't the complete article, but he was someone of huge potential, but just needed refinement. And with the refinement, you get that with game time. So I'm hoping, even if Isak comes through the door, I think Ekitike for me will still play a big part in our season coming up. But I feel like we definitely need to add another player into the attack. It's too much pressure for it to be Ekitike week in, week out. And I'll be honest with you, to have Chiesa as your backup striker, the manager doesn't have faith in him. So how can I have, too much faith in him? Even though I rate the player, but I don't think he has a long-term future at the club. So with that said, it's clear that we need to sign an attacker. I get the assumption that it's Isak or no one. So if we don't get Isak, which I don't know what you think, AR, I think we'll definitely get Isak. It's just a matter of when rather than, waiting for that to happen because the player is pretty much, from his dummy at the prime. Like he's done all the stops that you expect from a player that is desperate to leave a club. And the club have pretty much said, all right, fine, you can train on your own. Like we're not taking you to pre-season or anything to that nature. So do you think Isak will come through, or do you think it might be where we have to wait until January or even as far as next summer to sign him?
It's just Newcastle. They're just they can't get anyone in, and it's not
Honestly.
Liverpool's problem. They can't get anyone. It's their problem, and I don't
Yeah,
understand why even why they're saying that. It's just if the guy doesn't want to play, he's not going to play at all for you guys. So you rather
yeah,
sell up and take the money and then invest in areas that they need to. They got Champions League football and they can't even get anyone in.
honestly. They've got no pull whatsoever, which surprised me because, like in terms of Newcastle, the stadium, the club, they still have a bit of history. I know they've only won their first trophy, beating us in the Carabao Cup, but it's still known to be a very sort of passionate fan base. They've always had good players in the past. They love their strikers, so it would have been an easy sell, but I don't know. Maybe because Eddie Howe and Richard Hughes are good friends. Richard Hughes has said to him, like, look, I'll let you find your replacements and then, we'll make that official bid. But for me, that needs to stop now. We've got to stop being, the big brother now. We've got to let little brother know that, look, we want your player now. So let's just like stop
Yeah,
playing games because we have to be aggressive. We're wasting too much time. Like you said, this has been going on and on for too long now. We're
yeah,
mid August now. We've got other areas to sort out. It's not like this is the final piece of the puzzle. We need a defender. Me and you saying we need two defenders. We would love to get a defensive midfield. I don't think it will happen personally. And we need a winger. A striker and a winger and a defender is the minimum that I want from this window. And that's not me being you know, a overexcited Liverpool fan because we're spending money left, right, and centre. It's a necessity from our squad point of view. And I'm not saying we've got to spend 100 million on each player. It just needs to be the right profile for those positions. So for me, I really hope we get moving a little bit. Hopefully, we'll get some developments next week. Because right now it feels like we're in standstill. We don't know if we're going to get new players or not. And if this is the squad that we are with by the end of the window, I'm not. I still feel like we'll be favorites for the title, but I will still have slight concerns. If we pick up one or two injuries in our squad, it impacts the way our season goes. And I don't want that to be the case for Liverpool. I don't want it to be what happened to Man City last year when they lost Rodri and they pretty much catapulted after that. So for me, I want it to be we have such a complete squad that we can, rotate the squad early on. Last season we only did it in the second half where we started rotating. I want it to be done a bit more early on so players are fresh when it comes to the latter stages of certain competitions and all that sort of stuff. So for me, I really hope we address those positions. Whether we do or not, remains to be seen. But AR, appreciate you coming on. Hopefully it's not your last time. It's your debut today. But I hope to speak to you in more calling shows. You know how I do my shows. Every match reaction will be a calling show, so feel free to jump on and hopefully I'll speak with you again very soon.
no worries.
Take care, brother. Speak to you
Yeah,
soon.
thank you. Bye, bye.
Bye. That is AR. Big up AR as always. Now, just going to go through some of the comments before we close the show. So, let's see which one was the last comment. I've lost track. There we go. So, it was actually AR's comment. That was the last comment. So, AR said we need to offload Simicast, Gomez, Reece Williams, Cameron Ramsey, Elliot Doak, and Chiesa. So, for me, Simicast looks like he's going. I think he will be potentially staying in the Premier League. He could be going to Nottingham Forest. That's the latest team that have shown interest in the left back. So I think he'll probably leave very soon, if I'm being honest with you. Joe Gomez, we can't sell Joe Gomez. Would be a very hard sell right now, so he'll have to stay for another season, I think. Reece Williams, I can't believe he's still got a contract at the club. Yeah, I saw a graphic the other day, and it presented all of our sort of backup players for the first teamers, and he was the direct backup for Van Dijk. That concerned me a lot when I saw that. And I'm thinking we have to get Gay. There's no way we can't get him now. We have to. I want two, and I feel like I'm being greedy when I say that out loud. I think we need two centre backs, but whether the club do that or not remains to be seen. But Gay has to be a minimum for us. In terms of the other areas, Karen Ramsey, he's been so injury prone the last couple of years. I think it'll be hard to get anything from him. So I think a loan move back to Scotland maybe might suit him again. I know he went to Kilmarnock and that never worked out for him due to injury. Elliot, I expect him to leave soon. Doak, it might be worth selling Doak. Maybe we add a buyback clause in his contract because I feel like his stock is very high right now. He's getting a lot of interest from certain clubs. So we could probably get in the region of 25, 30 million for him. And I feel like that could help in terms of financing certain deals, but I feel like it'd be a good return for Liverpool. And then Chiesa, I have literally have no. I'm 50-50 kid. I feel like he should stay to give us depth, but then I feel like Arne Slot, looks at him as the invisible man, never plays him. So what's the point of having him on the bench? So maybe sell him as well. But if we sell him, then we gotta get that winger and that striker 100%. Otherwise, we'll be very low in numbers in terms of attacking options next season. I was coming out saying big up JK Suram, big up JK as always. To Steve says I'm gonna wait until after the Bournemouth game to pass judgment, but I am worried. Name the names. I think that's in reference to the content creators. Do you know what? It's not even anyone that comes to my mind, but I'll sort of like browse around YouTube as I'm sure everyone does as well, and there'll be like a panel show with like different people, and you just listen to one guy thinking, "What are you talking about?" And I feel like he's doing like certain people do things for reactions. Um, and to be fair, not many of them are even Liverpool content creators. They're different content creators from other clubs. I can't even think of names. Otherwise, I'll give you at least one or two names. But it's just people that I've come across online. And that's one of the reasons why I don't even do Twitter Spaces because the people that come on those platforms there talk absolute nonsense. So yeah, for me, not my cup of tea, not my kind of platform or the way I want to, present content. For me, it's all about having civilized, debatable discussions about football. And of course, we're all Liverpool fans here, so having, that common denominator of supporting our team and speaking about our beloved Liverpool. So yeah, for me, that's the reason why I do this content. Apologies. Delusive said, if we end up signing 89 players, would you call that a rebuild us? Kind of feels like it. And also I feel like in terms of the way we're playing now, it's different to what we're playing last season. So it kind of does feel like a rebuild. It's a slot rebuild because he's bringing in the players that he wants to fit into his philosophy. So it is kind of a rebuild, if I'm being honest with you. Now, some fans will take that as a lazy narrative or see it as an excuse that if Liverpool don't deliver, it's because they did a rebuild, they bought all these players. How can you do rebuild when you're champions? Look, he basically inherited the squad from another coach. So he still wants to add players that fit his style of play. And I feel like that's what we're doing. But the players that have come in, I've been impressed with all of them. So it's only a matter of time that we have everyone gel together. I don't have too much concerns in terms of the players that we brought in. It's just maybe the speed of us making sure that we're in full flow, full force going forward. And for me, it's just that peace of mind of having more squad depth in our current situation where we don't have enough centre backs. That needs to be addressed. We don't have our main striker. Ekitike, I like him, but I think we all envision Liverpool to get Isak, and then signing a Diaz replacement is a must as well. So I think it could be classified if we end up signing that many players. But rival fans won't let us paint that narrative because it's like, oh, you're champions, you can't be doing rebuilds. So it depends who you speak to, I guess. Stuart says Salah and Van Dijk is finished. We need their replacement. We need Isak, Rodrigo, Gay, and Baliba. I'm going to go far saying they're finished. I know they were very poor today, but they're still, elite players in my eyes. So I'm not going to agree with that. I think they're still quality players. It's not performed today. That happens. They're human after all. So for me, I don't think they're finished at all. Stuart said, believe it's needed. Army full look lightweight. The lightweight element, I kind of understand your point there. It would be a bonus to have a player like Baliba in our squad. But I've been impressed with Gravenberch. I think Gravenberch was arguably one of the best defensive midfielders last season, even though it's not his natural game. But because I've seen it, in Gravenberch where he's played a double pivot for Ajax, he's played as a number 6 for Netherlands as well. So he's definitely a player that has played in his career, so he understands the role, and I feel like he's warmed up to playing that position. I feel like he's going to make his own. So for me, we definitely missed Groundwork today because we didn't have that defensive minded person in our team. We lacked balance in that double pivot. We had two number 8s more or less playing alongside each other. And due to that, it left gaps between the defense and the midfield. And that's what Crystal Palace exploited in that second half. So I believe it could be a good option, but not for 100 million. I think that's crazy, man. I'd rather, stick with what we have. Because I feel like Gravenberch, McAllister, and Szoboszlai, that's a good trio to have in your centre midfield. So for me, I feel like that's enough depth for us. And then you've got Endo, Jones. So as you name the players, that's 5 players there. That's plenty of quality and depth in that position. But look, I would love for it to be another defensive midfield. I feel like that just, shores up the midfield a bit more. But I don't think we'll go for that profile this window. Delulu Steve says Salah and Van Dijk ain't finished, bro. They just had poor games. I agree. I don't think they're finished at all. They just had poor games today. Delulu Steve says if they have a poor season, then we'll see next May. That's the thing. Look, if for some reason that Salah and Van Dijk are on a serious decline as the season goes on, then we can definitely have that conversation next year. And then it might be a thing where we end up signing their successors sooner rather than later. So for me, I'm not quite there yet. I don't think they are in decline. I just think they had 2 bad performances today, and it happens. It's part of the game. Stuart said, "Why does Slot loves Jones?" Um, I don't think he brought him into it because he loves Jones and everything of that nature. Ravenberg wasn't available, and McAllister is not fully fit there yet. So it was between Jones and Endo. Arguably, probably say Endo would give you a better balance with Szoboszlai, but I think he went for Jones's experience or his more technical ability, where he can move the ball around. His ball retention is really good, but of course, I don't feel like he was as impactful today. So he had a poor game as well, but doesn't mean he's a poor player overall. But that's just my opinion. Stu says, can we trust Gakpo? I think we can. I like Gakpo. I know a lot of the fans, for some reason, have literally flipped the script on Gakpo. Like they think he's a terrible player overnight. Remember, he was one of our most lethal attackers last season. He scored a lot of goals for us last year. So, for me, he can be predictable at times. Yes, he's a right foot left winger. Of course, he will be predictable. I still feel like he's an important player for our squad. Would I like us to get a player that may be an upgrade on paper? 100%. That's why I'm not chanting for players like Malik Fofana because he doesn't overtake Cody Gakpo. I don't think Anthony Gordon overtakes Gakpo in this team either. So for me, I would go for a Bradley Barcola. That's my guy. That's the guy I want in the team because I feel like he ticks all the boxes, gives us a different dimension from our attacking point of view, and also with Diaz out of the team, being sold to Bayern Munich, we don't have that type of player in our squad. So we need someone that brings that to the table. So for me, it would be Bradley Barcola. If not Rodrigo, Rodrigo would be an upgrade from a technical point of view, but I would still prefer to have a player like Barcola who can take the fullback on and be very sort of lethal when it comes to using their pace and attacking that byline and stretching the defense with their speed. So for me, that's a profile that I would want. Um, but yeah, I think we're crashing out on Gakpo too soon. That's the vibe. I'm not saying you, Stuarts, in particular. Just from what I've seen online and what I've seen on other shows earlier today, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not with that kind of reaction right now. I still feel like we've got a good player in Gakpo there, but you know, that's just my opinion. Ozan Kabak says Dosena had one good game at Old Trafford. Yeah, he did, and he had that cameo at Real Madrid. He scored against Real Madrid, didn't he? So yeah, he was just the wrong fit for us. Honestly, he came as a wing back, and we played him in a back four, and then he was very stocky and built, wasn't very mobile, and he'd go further up the pitch, and he had zero recovery speed, so that didn't help us at all. So yeah, poor signing overall in the end. Stuart's asking why Stock not using Chiesa. God knows, Stuart's. I thought Chiesa would have made an appearance today at some point. I just don't think he favors the player. Doesn't rate him, doesn't value him, doesn't have faith in him. So if that's the case, why is Chiesa at the club? Chiesa should be sold. If he's not good enough, then I think he should be sold, and we should try and replace him with someone that Slot will have faith in to utilize in the squad. So right now, that's the vibe I get. He doesn't have faith in Chiesa, but then why are we keeping him? Makes no sense to do that. Still saying we miss Diaz and Nunes. Maybe Diaz, Nunes. No, I don't miss Nunes. I know he scored today, but just because he scored in a different league doesn't mean he would have scored today. So for me, I don't miss Nunes. Ekitike is an upgrade on Nunes for me automatically. So I don't miss him in that aspect. But what I think we do miss is strength in depth in that number 9 role. We do need to sign another striker. Stu says our backups aren't good enough. If that's in regards to the attackers, I can understand what you're saying because we've sold Nunes and Diaz and we haven't replaced them yet. So I would just say wait and see in terms of who we sign at the end of the window, and then we can make that assessment later on. But right now, I kind of agree what you're saying, but I don't fully agree because I feel like the club are doing the work in the background to sign new players, and that means hopefully Isak and potentially a new winger as well. That's what I feel like the club are doing right now. Stuart says Elliot, Chiesa, Doak, not good enough as backup. Yeah, I think Elliot looks like he's on the verge of leaving, so I think that's the player that we're expecting to see out the door soon. Chiesa, maybe I have a soft spot for him because I rate the player, but I understand in terms of your opinion if you don't think he's good enough. Doak, as a backup, wouldn't be a bad option, but it's only if we can't sell him on. That would be my thinking. But I feel like he'll end up being sold very soon. He's got a lot of stock right now. There's a lot of interest in the Premier League for the Scottish winger, so I think he'll be sold very, very soon. Nothing like favourites with his squad. I don't think he has favourites. I think he just has more faith in certain players. Because I don't feel like anyone in the squad, isn't worthy of being in the lineup. Like, if you feel like there's any players, let me know in the chat that you think this guy should be in there because he's not good enough and he's only in there because he's a favorite. I don't really see that alignment there. But let me know in the chat. Julie Steve says a lot of fans online are saying we've actually weakened this summer instead of strengthening us. Thoughts? Uh, I don't see it that way. Now, if the window closed today, I may agree with that because we've got less numbers than we did last year, and we've sold players without replacing them. But we'll give Richard Hughes the benefit of the doubt. He's working hard. He's trying to get some deals over the line. So let's see what he brings for us by the end of the window, and then we'll definitely have this chat about has the squad been weakened or not. Currently, I get it to an extent because we've got less numbers, but quality wise, no way. For me, Frimpong, obviously, Trent is the more elite pass of the ball, but I've always liked my fullbacks to be attack minded and using their pace in terms of attacking the byline, using the width, providing that creativity from the flanks. And I've been impressed with Frimpong, so I like him. Kirke is an upgrade on Robertson because unfortunately for Robertson, he's on a slight decline. Verts is an upgrade, I guess, on Elliot on paper because Elliot's the one leaving, but Szoboszlai was the main number 10, so I guess he is definitely an upgrade on Szoboszlai. And for me, Ekitike is an upgrade on Nunes. So we haven't got the Diaz replacement, so we can't do a comparison there. We haven't got the Kwanzaa replacement yet, so we can't do a comparison there either. So once we address those two positions and get another striker to, of course, replace, Diogo Jota, rest in peace. So once we don't address those positions, we can't really say it's been weakened or not. But I don't think we have. Right now, if the window was to close, yes, we've got less numbers. But quality wise, I think we've upgraded personally. I know the Trent one won't sit well with certain fans, but um, from a defensive point of view, I think Frimpong's better than Trent because he's got recovery speed about him. Trent never liked to track back or run back to save the team. It's not his game. He's wanted to do those Hollywood passes. He wanted to be David Beckham. Like that was his thing. So for me, I'm liking the fresh, you know, face of our team in terms of having a right back that likes to bomb forward. And let's not forget, Conor Bradley has that same kind of ilk about him as well. He's an attack-minded fullback. So for me, I don't think we've weakened, but we can talk about this at the end of the window because I feel like we're still doing some work in the background. Once we've addressed those positions, then we'll have that conversation. Stuart thinks we have weakened. I don't think we have. It's just that we haven't found those replacements for those players that have left. If we don't, I agree with you. If we replace those players with quality players, then it's a different conversation. You say you don't understand the hype in regards to the players that we brought in. If you're not, if you're not excited about the prospect of Verts, that's your entitled to your opinion. I am overly excited about Verts in our team. Ekitike, very excited about him. Frimpong, I like what I've seen so far. He looks like an exciting player, and he covers right wing for us as well. So we don't have to sign too many attackers. For me, when Salah's at AFCON, Frimpong could be the guy that replaces him um, on that right hand side. Slightly off topic, I completely forgot to mention this. What happened in the game? Wharton should have got a red card on that tackle on Frimpong. VAR, I don't know, fell asleep or, the lunch lady came in and gave them their lunch and they were just too busy munching because they never checked that incident. Like 10 minutes later, when they finished their lunch, all of a sudden they started doing VR checks for McAllister handballs and all that sort of stuff. Like, don't know what they're playing at. That should have been at least a yellow if I'm being like, you know, objective about it. But it wasn't even reviewed. So for me, that was ridiculous. And it was very high. Like it was close to his knee, nowhere near the ball. Should have been a straight red. But VAR always do VAR things, so it is what it is, I guess. AR says we have time to prove in the transfer market, 100%. Stuart says we are not ready for this scene. Let's not lie. I think we're ready to play the next few games, but we do need additions. I'm not saying we don't. We do need additions to the squad, but we still have a strong 18. 100%. So I think we're fine for the next few weeks at least until the window closes. Galperk can play all games. Yeah, he can, but I don't want him to play all the games because we saw it at the end of last season. He looked tired, he looked jaded, looked a bit leggy. So for me, I want it to be where we can rotate him a little bit more because I know he's got the quality. Oh, yeah, exactly. So that's my point there. Exactly. Uh, Lewis used to don't like Ozzie. You know you missed the case. I really don't. I really don't. In today's game, maybe it would have had some sort of impact, but no, Ekitike for me just seems more composed, more, you know, his IQ is a lot better. And I don't mean to sound like, I'm trying to say Nunes is dumb or anything to that nature, but he knows when to move around the pitch. Ekitike is not in a central position. He's on the left. He's on the right. He's dropping deep. Like he knows what's best for the team. He's got a great game intelligence, and he knows from a tactical point of view when to move around. So for me, very exciting prospects. And yeah, I've said it already. He's an upgrade on Nunes. So yeah, I'm not missing that chaosness from Nunes. Some fans might be, but yeah, I'm I'm not one of them. Um, Stuart says Liverpool are not favourite for the EPL with the current squad. That's your opinion. I still think they are. Let me know who you think are favourites because Man City haven't been great. I think they've just won their first preseason game a couple of days ago. So if that's signs of champions, then I don't think it is. But you're entitled to say what you think. Stuart says Jota replacement is Ekitike. Nunes replacement should be Isak. So we need Diaz and Chiesa replacement. I don't think we'll get a replacement for Diaz and Chiesa. It will be one player that replaces both players. That's how I think it's going to end up. Uh, but yeah, we'll see what happens in regards to that. AR says Wharton red card must be the English bias again. It probably is, I don't even know what happened. The dirty challenge. They didn't even review it. Quickly moved on, and then 2 minutes later, they had a handball incident that wasn't handball, but they wanted to make a big hoorah about that as well. So I don't know what happened there. But yeah, um, but that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for your engagement today. Lots of comments there really made the show enjoyable today. Shout out to JK and AR for coming on into the calling show. Appreciate you guys as always. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Just got one comment here from Steve who says, Arsenal favorites again. I don't buy it, Steve. Honestly, um, I don't know. I don't think they are, but maybe because we haven't addressed certain positions in our team, fans are thinking that way. But if they want that early favorite style, they can have it. We'll let the football do the talking for us in the end. But let me give some shouts to everyone. Shout out to AR, shout out to LFC20, shout out to Oz and Kabak, shout out to Deluded Steve, shout out to who else do we have? Shout out to Stewart's, and I think that is it. If I've missed you, apologies. But yeah, appreciate you guys as always. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. In terms of next upcoming shows, I will be doing a transfer show tomorrow. Hopefully, we get some further news in regards to potential targets. And then from next week onwards, we'll go to our sort of normal scheduling in terms of we'll start doing match previews again. I'll try and get some Liverpool content creators on the show, so look out for further collaborations. We'll start doing match reaction shows like today. I wasn't planning on doing one today, but I feel like a lot had to be said. So that's why I did an impromptu show. So I appreciate you guys watching today. And yeah, so we'll do our match reaction shows. All match reaction shows will be calling shows. So if you want to come on, the platform is for you guys to do so. And we might have another show lined up where I'll try and get sort of the weekly take into what's happening in the Premier League and all that sort of stuff. So lots of content coming your way. So please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you know what time I'm going live. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.